Hi, welcome. I'm Sheena with Cedar Sand Photography, and I have a brand new set of presets coming out alongside the Ascend Masterclass workshop. And I made you a little editing video. So we're going to go through and edit my workshop photos in real time. So you can see how my presets work, how to use them, how I tweak them, how easy it is. And yeah, I can't wait to share them with you. My workshop contained the first session, 3 scenes under a weeping willow tree. Inside, you can see here, we did kind of like an intimate, playful part of the session. And then we went out to a flower field. So you're going to see 3 different presets used for that, as well as a little beach session that I did as well to tag on to the end so that you can see what my presets look like in more of a brighter setting, such as the beach, also cooler tones, and how I warm those up with my preset called Sand. So let's get started. I have gone ahead and pre-selected a bunch of images for us to go through together. The first is under the weeping willow tree, and I quintessentially have a preset called Willow. And in this particular willow setting, I really want to bring out the greens a little bit more than my preset is allowing. So I do have stackable presets. All of them are stackable where you can add on little things, little enhancements to each preset. In this one in particular, I can add more green, which I love because that was just the greens were just too dull there. I always, in all my presets, have a soften skin option. So it's gonna soften the skin, but then also add a slight more contrast to keep those details nice and sharp as well. And then I love the vignette. So I'll usually always add the vignette in there, as you can see the difference there. I will show you at one point or another too how to adjust the vignette if you're interested in doing that. I also have a dehaze if you want it a little bit darker. For this session, I think I was liking it without the dehaze, and I'll show you once I'm done. Actually, some images I may or may not use it. You're going to see further for that. And then all of the presets also have a stackable black and white. So you have that option or that option that you can tweak as well. I always like to, if I'm going to do a black and white option, is make a copy with create virtual copy and then give the client a color and a black and white option. So that's a few clicks. I love that. That's even an option. Okay, so with this image in particular, I would, and typically with all my sessions, I would go up and clean around the grass here. We're not going to do that just for the sake of the video today. I don't want you waiting for the processing of removing those images or those parts of the image. So yeah, let's see how I want to tweak this one. This one in particular, I would love to see a little bit more exposure, but then also bringing up the contrast just slightly. I love the way this is looking, but I would probably add slight more magenta and a slight more of warmth to it. Yeah, I love that. I think I would go with that. If your images are quite similar, like you can see I have 6 images here, you can in Lightroom Classic go Control C and just make sure all of the coloring options are selected here. I don't usually like to have lens correction, transform, the remove, the crop, lens blur, any of those turned on, but keep on calibration, the vignetting because we used vignettes, and then all the coloring options over here. You can hit copy, go to the next image and hit Command C, and that's going to paste everything that you just did on the previous image on the next image. So just for optics, let's go ahead and just do this one without like having copy and pasted it instead of going back to the willow option. I find I love the way the contrast looks in this one. The vignetting is doing its job, really focusing on the clients. I love that. But I'm going to bring down the contrast just a little bit for the feel of this session. I want to keep this part a little more brighter, not too dark. All right, we'll go to the next image and we're gonna hit willow, more green, soften the skin, and add the vignette. I haven't pre-straightened and cropped the images, so we're gonna do that together. This one in particular, I'm really loving the contrast, the way the lighting's peeking over, but we're gonna add just a slight more magenta again and a slight more warmth there. I love that. Let's go with that. Moving to the next one, again, willow, more green, soften skin, and add some vignette. Again, I love how this one is working for us here. We'll bring down the contrast just slightly. And I'm gonna bring up the magenta. I like the warmth. We're gonna bring up the magenta. Yes, I love that. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, for the weeping willow tree, we're just going to do one more. Let's go ahead and straighten and crop this one first. If you were part of the workshop and you've seen, I had them walking, pretending like they were drunk. So it was like super playful. I love this. I love the prompt. I love the laughter, the candidness of this. So let's go ahead and click willow. Okay, what I really like about this one is it's a little more washed out. So I'm going to show you a few more adjustments. We're going to go more green, soften the skin. Oops. Add the vignette. Okay, I'm loving this. Let's go add more magenta, more warmth. Oh, that's great. And we're going to add more contrast, just a little. I might bring up the exposure slightly and bring down that magenta just a little. I think it took it up too high. Okay, so let's go down to the vignette. So post-crop vignetting. I like to have my midpoint slider because that's going to change how far here. I'm going to make it like extreme for a moment so you can see the vignette coming in. So what the midpoint does is how far it brings it in on the clients. So sometimes if I want a little more vignette, I'll bring the midpoint in and bring, like, I guess in this sense, like more to the left. So a lower number. That way it comes in closer to the client, but then not have it so much vignetted. So I'm kind of liking it there. Perfect. I actually love this. One last slight adjustment I might do is like just bring up that vibrance a touch. It'll enhance the colors a little bit more. Perfect. I love that. Okay, let's move on to inside. We made like a little tent. It was so sweet, so cute. I loved it. Okay, we're going to crop that in just slightly. Ivory is my indoor preset, and it offers just very neutral, creamy, nice, warm skin tones. So I clicked ivory. We're going to click soften skin again because I'm obsessed with it. And then the vignette for the ivory preset is very subtle. So we are going to use that as well. In this case, I don't like my images like super dark, but a couple like this are awesome. And I think that's nearly perfect. I might slightly bring down that magenta a little bit, and I think that's great. Going to the next ones. Let's go to this one here because you can see how the wall is fairly blue. Okay, we're going to click ivory, slight vignette, and soften the skin. Okay, so for this one, I think the color tones are perfect. I'm not even going to adjust those, but I want to use a brush here and I want to brighten up this area of the wall that looks blue. So we're just going to click brush here. So it creates a layer mask and you can change the size, and we're just going to select it there and add some warmth to pull that blue. Look at that. That's perfect. So we went from that to that. I love it. Okay, next we're under the tent. So we have a little more warm tones when we're inside of the tent. We'll see what we need to adjust here. Let's go with the ivory. Yeah, you can see it's a little bit warmer. I think the magentas probably need to come down. Well, vignette and soften the skin. So again, all of the presets are stackable. You can add these enhancements if you would like to. This photo, just to bring out a little more detail in her hair, I might bring that contrast down just slightly. And then we'll bring down the magenta a little bit. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring down the vibrance so that it evens out. Yeah, there we go. I quite like that. Let's just see if we add a little more warmth. Yeah, I love that. If we go a little cooler or a little warmer. Let's bring that vibrance back up a little more. Undecided. There, I think I love that. Perfect. Okay, so the next image we're going to move on to is got a little bit of lens flare from the light coming through the window. So this would be a great opportunity for me to show you how I would adjust that. Let's go ahead and click ivory, see how bright it is. Okay, we're going to click vignette and soften the skin. You'll notice when you soften the skin, it sometimes brings up the clarity in some of my presets as well. So I do it about +5. Okay, let's bring down the exposure slightly. Bring up the contrast. Now, when I first started editing, I was so scared to touch this curves panel, but watch when you just pull it down just slightly. See, it gives you just that. I try not to do too many pinpoints because it will really go wonky, but if you can have one where you have, you know, the top, the bottom, one in the middle, you can kind of be flexible with exactly what you're moving. If I pull this, I don't know if you guys can see this over here on the right hand side, but if you pull the dot here down closer to the blacks, it's going to give you a lot more contrast, but then boost your whites as well. So let's go back. I like to pull the middle tones because that's when you're not going to change too much how dark the darks are and whites the whites are. So if you hit contrast, you're going to go more like blacks more black, whites more white. When you go to the curves panel and you have that middle one where you can play with the mid-tones, and I've really become obsessed with it. So let's actually pop some contrast and see. I love this. This is nearly exactly where I would leave it. Great. Pull down a little bit of the warmth. Okay, I love that. Let's move on. Okay, let's see how this one turns out. We'll click ivory, slight vignette, and soft skin. So you can see this one has a little bit too much contrast. We'll bring that down, bring some exposure up slightly. And this too, in particular, you could still play with the mid-tones here, bring up the black a little bit. It's going to bring out the shadows. Something that's more simple for anybody who wants to go an easier route is just bring out the shadows slightly a little bit more if that's what you're wanting. So let's do that. We'll bring the shadows out just a little bit. Everything else looks great. I like this one with the deeper tones. We're just going to bring down that vibrance just a smidgen. And slightly with the magenta. Where are we at? We're at 17. Let's go to 14. I love that. Okay, let's skip ahead to this one. Just says it's a different angle, laying on the floor. She's giving him some mushy kisses. Okay, let's go ivory. Ooh, I like these deeper tones right now. We're going to soften that skin again. Do you guys see the difference? Maybe I'll zoom in so you can see what my soften the skin tones looks like. I'm going to hit Command Z, which will go back a step. You can see just like a little bit in their pores, a little slight grain. I'm not huge on the grain. I know the grain is super popular, especially for sharpening images, but I love when the skin is just slightly softer. So here's it off. There's the slight grain and there's the soften. It's super subtle, but I'm obsessed with it, and all my presets include that softened skin. Okay, I'm really liking these skin tones and the image, the vignette. Let's add that. Yeah, I love this. You know what? I'm not even going to touch it. we're gonna move on. Let's head to the flower field. I created this preset specifically for when you have multiple colors, you want the warmth, but you want to keep the colors in the flowers. We'll do this image first, and then I'll show you how in the next image the colors still pop. So this preset is called Bloom. And I just love the coloring of it, the brightness. Again, I have another option here where you can add more green, stack the skin, soften the skin, and the vignette. I'm loving this already. I love the composition already. I'm not going to change any of that. I do feel like her hair is a little dark, and we're going to bring out some of that texture by bringing down the contrast, and I think that's perfect. We are going to leave it just there, but I did stack on the more green in this image as well. I think I might keep it for this set of images in the flower field as well. Okay, you can see a lot of the flower colors here, and you'll see the Bloom preset turns out quite warm when you initially put it on, and you can play with that. You can make it a little cooler if you want, or a little bit warmer. In this case, you can still see all the colors of the flowers. I want more green, so I'm going to click the more green so that my greens don't look too yellow here. We're going to soften the skin, and in this case, I do. I still like the vignette. So we're going to keep the vignette. We're going to bring down the contrast just slightly. Yes, I love this. We're going to keep it there. Let's move to, so we'll move to this one, and then the next few I'm going to show you are a little more slightly overexposed just because of the lens flare. So we'll do this one, and then I'll jump to the two with slight lens flare. So we're going to click Bloom. That looks so good already. Soften the skin, add more green because I still want my greens to look a little more green. And we're gonna add that subtle vignette. Everything here looks pretty spot on to me. I bring down the exposure just slightly, but I don't even want to change any of the warmth. I think that's perfect just as it is. Let's jump ahead to where we have a little bit of lens flare and that's a little bit brighter. We're going to click the Bloom preset, slight vignette, add that green back in, and soften the skin. So I find this one is quite warm. We don't want it too warm. We have a few options. First of all, let's bring down this exposure just slightly. We're going to bring down, let's see, we'll bring down the magenta a little and then bring down the yellow tones. Ooh, yes. That looks good, but let's see if we go a little more magenta again. Ooh, I like this. Bring down my yellows and bring up that magenta. Ooh, I like this. Yes, okay. Let's add some vibrance. Let's see what this looks like. Oof, yes, that's it. See how it's more, the light above his head is all white? If you want to take that to be a little bit more warm, I'll just take my brush tool, paint on a little bit of this, and add some warmth. See, I was like completely warmed up. Oh, we'll go like this, and we'll completely like warm up his face there too. In this particular image, I like that it's kind of hazing over his shoulder there. So for this particular one, I'm going to leave it there. But I am going to show you too, if we offset it, let's add another layer mask and a brush. We're just going to do a little click here and just soften the contrast of her now too. There we go. I love that. I can show you what that looks like. There's it off and on. Just so, because he's so soft and hazy, I wanted her to come out a little bit hazy, slightly hazier as well. What I would do is just add a little bit of warmth in there too, just to her layer mask. So then she's a little bit warmer now too, without touching the tones, the yellow tones down here. Okay, I love this. I think that's perfect. What do you want to see now? Let's jump to similar. Let's jump ahead to these ones here. So you get a little more contrast, not shooting as much into the sun, so I can show you some slight adjustments here. Straighten that a little bit. So we're going to hit bloom, vignette, add some green, and soften the skin. I love stackable presets because you can choose to add it for some and not for others. So it's not built right into the preset. You can stack it on, choose to have it, or choose to not have it. You can see their skin is a little bit too bright here. It's a little more contrasty. So we're gonna bring down the exposures slightly, but then bring down the contrast a bit. And I think I like that just as is. That's like subtle adjustments. That's perfect. Okay, so we had them picking flowers. Supernatural. Okay, let's do this one because it's got even darker tones. We'll go with bloom. That turned out super warm. Add some vignette, which, you know what? I don't think we need the vignette on this one. We're gonna go more green and soften the skin. You're gonna straighten this with me here. Okay, there we go. So in this case, I find it too warm. Magenta's too much. It's a little bit too vibrant. So this is what we're gonna do. We're first gonna bring down the contrast, bring up slight exposure, and see where we're at here. Okay, let's bring down some warmth. Oh, that's closer. I don't even know if well, okay, let's bring slight magenta down. Yeah, that's closer to what we've been doing now. I love that. Let's bring a little bit of warmth back up. Where were we at? Okay. Bring some magenta down a bit more. And then add some vibrance. Let's see what that looks like. Perfect. A little more magenta. Yes, I love that. Okay, let's move on. Okay, I'm gonna do this one just because it's really one of my favorite images where he dips and kisses her in the field. Okay, let's go. Bloom, add some green because we need a little more green pop there. Soften the skin, and I desperately need that vignette here today. So that's without the vignette, with the vignette. So just as a little tuck in on this side so your eyes still focus on the couple. I'm really loving the colors here. I don't think I would change too much. Let's slightly bring up the exposure and slightly bring up the contrast. Nice. I love this. Really is one of my favorite images. So, and I'm going to leave it at that. I don't even want to tweak it anymore. And again, I'm going to say it again. This is how easy these presets are. Let's jump ahead to just a few more of my favorites. We got the light peeking over with some sun flare. And we're going to crop that in just for a better composition. Okay, I love this. Let's see what it looks like. Hit bloom. Add some more green. Soften the skin. And add the vignette. Let's go without and with. Yes, I think we need the vignette. I love it. Okay, let's do this one just slightly more contrast. Bring out the dark in her hair and her eyelashes, but then also like brighten the skin slightly. As I look at this, I really love the tones and the coloring. I've really leaned into having more magenta in these images because of the flower field. I adore it, but we're gonna bring that magenta down just a couple. Go put it at 10. Perfect. Come on. There we go. Yeah, I think that's perfect. I love it right there. If you're like me and sometimes the shadow arms bother you, again, let's go through it. You'll click your brush. It creates a layer in your layer mask, and you're going to paint that on. I like to use my brush large because it kind of concentrates it in the middle and slowly blends it outwards. For this one, we're going to hit exposure just slightly up, and his arm is a little bit brighter. So here's the before and the after. So don't be shy to use those brushes and make those adjustments with a layer mask. It can really make a massive difference, especially in faces. But I find that when the arm is darker like this, it's a little bit distracting. My eye kind of goes there, whereas when it's a little bit brighter, it's more even. And yeah, your eyes still kind of go to where the emotion is here. Okay, let's go with this one. Okay. I love these lifts. I took this one slightly darker, slightly underexposed. It's going to give us options to go slightly more silhouetted or match the tones and exposure that we've already been using throughout the session. So I went ahead, I clicked bloom. Let's click more green because for this session, I definitely want that more green. Let's click soften skin and the vignette. The vignette, you know what? For this one, we're not going to use it. It's a little too much. It's naturally vignetting with the bush here and here. So we're not going to use the vignette for this one. But I want to show you, if you want to take something to a silhouette, simple as just like change that exposure. Perfect. I already love it there. And it gives a different emotion. It looks very playful. So let's do this. Because I love this image darker, I like to have a few images from a session that are darker. It just gives a different feel. We're going to go ahead and create virtual copy. And you'll notice it always puts it back at the beginning sometimes. So I'll drag it back to the image we were working on. Here we go. We'll reset this one so it's back to the original. And I'm going to show you this image brighter. So we're going to click bloom, add the green, and soften the skin. Let's add some exposure for brighten it up, add some contrast. And this is where playing with the curves again is vital. So I wanted to brighten their skin a little bit. So I'll bring up, so your lower tones, if you're looking on the right side here, your lower tones, your dark tones are going to be more to the bottom. Your brighter tones are more to the top right, and your midtones are going to be in the middle. In this case, we're going to drag those brighter tones, the whiter tones up, the lighter tones. And what you could bring the dark tones down, but in this case, I don't want the bushes to look so dark. So I want to bring down just those midtones slightly and balance out the contrast in their faces only. I'm pretty happy with this. Let's see if I bring down the magenta slightly. Yes, I love that. So she is still a little bit too bright for my liking. Let's click on the brush, creates a layer mask. In this case, we're going to make this one smaller, do a quick click. Bring down the exposure just slightly and the contrast up. Okay, you want to get into the beach? I have a preset. Of course, it's called, for the beach, it's called Sand. Yes, I love the beach sessions. I do a lot of them here in Vancouver. I live in Vancouver, so I just had to create a preset called Sand. So maybe we'll start with this image. Okay, I love the lens flare up top. The tones are perfect. It's a little bit hazy. Let's start with the preset. So it's called Sand. We're going to click Sand. We're going to click Add Warmth. Look at that. Went from that to that. I love that. I just love how golden her skin looks here. Soften the skin and add the vignette. Do we need the vignette in this one? Let's see. You know what? I don't think we need it in this one. I'm gonna go ahead and just slightly straighten it, crop it in a bit for composition. Okay, I love that. Okay, let's go with a little bit of exposure and a little bit of contrast. I might for this one, you'll also see my sand preset already has a little bit of dehaze. If you really wanted or you didn't like the haze, you could bring that up. Of course, that's extreme. But for this particular image, I'm loving the haze. I'm also noticing you can see his sunglass tan line. I would typically fix that. You know what? I'll fix it in this one. And for the rest of them, we are going to leave it. I love this feature in Lightroom Classic for you to just be able to select, remove, and boom, it's gone. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. And I think that one's great. Let's leave it there. Okay, let's move on to a wider image. It's just going to need a little more adjustment with the contrast or even the curves. So we're going to go ahead, click sand. Typically, I'll hit soften the skin, add the warmth. Of course, we need the warmth for this session. And I'm definitely going to use the vignette. I'll adjust it after. I'll show you after how I would choose to adjust it. For this particular photo, let's go ahead and add a little bit more contrast and a little more warmth. Let's make those yellows a little more brighter. I want to show you, this will give you a more extreme example of what curves do when you have the lower, mid, and brighter tones, okay? So if you grab your top curve and you bring it up, you can see how it really pops those bright tones. The mid tones, you're going to see they go brighter, kind of brings out the shadows, and I am completely obsessed with that. If you're not comfortable with it, again, you can still click the shadows, do the blacks and the whites. The curves is where I'm most comfortable. I've refined that, so I really love it. I love how this one's looking, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to bring down that magenta just slightly. Let's put it at 9. I'll bring down the warmth slightly. Okay, perfect. I like that. Sometimes with wider photos, I like to bump up the clarity just a little more as well. Yes, I love that. Okay, this is one of my favorite images from this session. We kept it romantic. So let's hit sand, add warmth, soften the skin, and add some vignette. My vision for this photo was to have it, I'll just straighten it here a second. The sun glowing over his back and having this one slightly darker. Show a little more intimacy with it. Bring the exposure down a little more. And I did add the vignette, but I think I want a little bit more. So we're going to go down to the post-crop vignetting. We're going to add a little more vignette, but we're going to bring that midpoint in more as well. Let's go 15. There we go. I love that. This is looking beautiful. Bring down my magenta slightly. Let's see if we bring up that saturation. Ooh, I love that. Yes, let's leave it there. Two of my favorite images. They're very similar, but I just, you know what, I'll do a copy paste so you can see both of them, and maybe I'll even show you like a before and after, okay? So let's start with this one. I had it a little more romantic feeling. I love her eyes, her lips, the texture of her hair here. It's beautiful. So we're gonna go sand, add some vignettes, warm it up. Oof, yes, and soften that skin. I would also fix those few hairs by her eyes, but just for time's sake in this video. Oh, and his sunglass tan line as well. So just for the sake of timing, we'll just pretend I fixed those. And okay, so I am loving this. We might just go exposure up a bit. Maybe not that much. There we go. And I think it's slightly too warm. Bring it down just slightly. And I just want to see if we add a little bit more vignette. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I am obsessed with this. The lighting, the couple, the coloring. It's just I want to be them. I want to be the couple in this photo. So we're gonna hit copy and go to the next image, paste, which is Command V, and almost perfect. We might just bring down those magentas slightly. Yes. Oh my goodness. Oof. I love it. Let's see if we bring those magentas down in this one too. Yes. Okay, I really like how that one is just like slightly darker, but this one looks like slightly different. And I love that actually they look different. Bring down the exposure a bit. Yeah, see, I love that, the subtleties. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to one where it's overexposed. Now, I love this image. She looks like a true top model here. Stunning. I am obsessed. Let's see how the preset turns out on this one. We're going to click sand, add my vignette, the warmth, and soften skin. So it's completely overexposed, a little bit washed out. So we're going to adjust that. Let's go bring that exposure down and contrast up. Ooh, yeah, I'm liking how this is looking. So we're going to fix the coloring in her arm here. I'm really focused in on the face right now, but we will fix that arm in a second. Yes, and I really like the tones, but if you want to add just a little more warmth and color for where the tones are, just kick up that vibrance just slightly. This is a quicker, easy fix. And I might bring, let's see. No, we're going to leave that. Okay, I really love this. I don't think I'm going to change too much more. Let's add a little more warmth. Yes, for the beach. That's amazing. Okay, let's brighten up that arm. We're gonna click our brushes and new mask is there. Let's make this larger. Paint it on kind of like that. Hit our exposure. Perfect. That's a little better. You can see that the lens flare has dabbled down his jacket and onto her hand, which you can fix easily as well. Just for time's sake though, I might not go in and fix all these things because I want the flare off her face, her hair and whatnot, but I will show you the final image in the workshop. Okay, moving on. Let's go with this one because we're shooting less into the sun. Do one that's going to have just a little more contrast for us. Add the vignette, the warmth, and soften the skin. We're going to straighten this image a little. There we go. Add that contrast. Ooh, that is looking so good. Let's bring those shadows up a little. Great. And then without touching the magenta, let's just add some warmth. Perfect. Actually, so perfect. Further out images, I add just a slight more clarity and oof, I really love that. Okay, let's make the vignette just a slight more and bring it in more. Great, I love that. Perfect. Bring that magenta down just 2 notches to 10. Yeah. Great, that's perfect. Okay, let's go one more time to the final image of the shoot, bringing it more intimate and getting some of that haze. We're gonna click sand, add the vignette, add the warmth, and soften the skin. We're gonna go ahead first, bring down exposure just slightly and the contrast up. Oh, I'm dying. Okay, so nice. So you can see again, a little bit of lens flare on the arm, you can fix that. And then as well as on his jacket and of course his sunglass line. In this particular image, she is slightly darker than him. So we're gonna go with the brush, bring it a bit smaller here, and do her face and her arm. Bring up the exposure just slightly. Okay, go back to our main adjustments. Bring the exposure down a little more. Actually, I'm loving this now. Yeah, you know what? We're gonna use the brush and create a second mask and a brush, and we are going to bring this side of his head down and make it, or sorry, we'll bring down there we go, the exposure. We're gonna bring up the warmth just slightly because that kind of washed him out a bit. Perfect. So this has actually changed our image quite a bit. We're gonna bring that contrast down slightly, exposure up a bit. And I think it's a little too vibrant. So we're gonna bring that vibrance down slightly. I love that. One last touch, if you wish to do so. Create another layer mask with your brush, paint it on here, and we'll make that a little bit more warm at the back of his head so it doesn't look so cold. Again, this is another image where you could create the virtual copy and make it a little bit more of like a silhouette. Look how beautiful that is. Just boom, boom. So easy. That's before, and you just adjust slightly your contrast and exposure. Well, there you go. That's my editing video for today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, being patient with me, and bopping through some of these images with me. I'm so excited about my presets and the launch of them. So be sure to check out my website, www.cedarandsand.ca, or you can find it also the link on my social handles. Thanks again. Have a good day. Bye.